Hi, this is Amber Garvey from the A-Team. Today we're going to talk about apps and extensions on your Chromebook. Now that we've laid the foundation of basics, let's kind of look at taking your use of your Chromebook even further. The first thing you're going to want to do is come to our instructional technology site. In the left-hand navigation bar, you're going to see an area called Google Apps Support, and if you open that up, you'll see Chromebooks. Now, there are some resources here with which you need to be familiar, particularly if you work in our school district. So I'm actually going to scroll all the way to the bottom to this area that's called Apps and Extensions. There are some important links here that you're going to need to know and to have access to. So these links are very important. And it's going to also have directions on how to add apps and extensions to student Chromebooks. So I wanted to show you where the resources are so that after you learn how to do this, you'll know how to utilize these resources that are on that page. So the first thing I kind of want to draw your attention to is down in the bottom left-hand corner, we've talked about that launcher. So I'm actually going to click on that launcher and bring it up. And with the launcher, remember we talked about that being a place where you could do searching, and we also mentioned apps, but I'm actually going to open this so that all we see are the apps. And we talked about how you could navigate through them using these little toggles or scrolling through with two fingers so that you could scroll through the list. These things that are on this area are apps. These are Chrome apps. These are ones that can be downloaded from the Chrome Web Store so that you can get a little more functionality for specific apps on your Chromebook. Now, some are going to come automatically, like your Sheets and Docs and Slides and Google Drive, but some are added. So you can see there's a Sphero app here that's been added. Let's look at some of the others. There's there's a Dell Activity Light app that's been added, and we mentioned that earlier in a video. There's a Canva app. So you can see there are apps that are added that are not just Google specific. So those are your apps. Now, I do want to come back here to this main screen so that we can talk about extensions. Now, you'll see some extensions in this top right-hand corner. Those are little tiny specific pieces of software that live in the top of your browser, and they do very specific small tasks. So that's what an extension is. It's important that you understand the puzzle piece because you may have some extensions that aren't showing up here, but if you click on the puzzle piece, it shows you a list of your extensions that you can scroll through. And then if you have a pin next to it, that's how you pin it at the top. So you see that I have a Wakelet extension and I have a pin there, that's pinning it to the top. So if you have ones you use a lot, you'll want to go ahead and pin those to the top. So your puzzle piece are your extensions. So we're talking about apps and extensions. Now I want to focus first on Chrome apps, and then we'll move on to extensions. And lastly, we'll actually talk about Android apps as well, which is a possibility on some Chromebooks. So let's just take a look at applications first. So the first thing that you're going to want to know how to do if you're wanting to put an app on your Chromebook is how to get to the Chrome Web Store. So I'm going to open up a new tab. And you can actually type in Chrome Web Store, and you'll find that Chrome Web Store. You see it here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that to open that up. The Chrome Web Store is the store that has the extensions and the apps that you can use on your Chromebook. Some of these are also usable outside of your Chromebook, but we're focusing on Chromebooks today. So one of the things you'll notice is there's a section on apps, and there's a section on extensions. So first of all, like I mentioned before, we're going to focus on the apps. So you could go into the search and search for something that you were looking for, or you can also just go to apps. Now, before I do any searching, I do want to kind of show you how to use this store. So I'm on the apps filter so that I'm only looking for apps. So I want to show you some things that you can use here. Now, you can search by category, and one of the categories is education. So you might want to, if you're looking for something you can use in your classroom, you can use academic resources. If you're looking for teacher tools, you can go there, or you can just click on this main category of education, and you're going to get some app suggestions. Now, they will give you some featured ones at the top that you can kind of browse through, but you also see they've divided this up. So these are ones that are integrated with Google Classroom. These are some learning games. So you can see that there are lots of different ways that you can search that store. Now, that's how you can kind of look at all of them. I do want you to notice something here that includes ratings. It is important that you consider ratings when you're downloading something. You may have heard about it from a peer or a coworker, and that's, of course, a great way to find if something works. But you do get some information by looking at the ratings as well. So that does give you a little more information. So now, for fun, I'm going to say that I have heard about this app that I want to try called Duolingo. So I'm going to actually search for it. So I want to show you something that's really important. You'll notice here I no longer have apps selected. So you see how this page is divided into extensions, and if I scroll down, here are my apps. So after you do a search, if you're only looking for an app, you'll want to click that little radio button so you're only looking for apps. So let's say this is exactly the one I'm looking for, this Duolingo on the web, and I want to take a look at it. So I'm going to click on it. I can read some more information about it. Again, I have those reviews, 5 stars out of 5 stars with over 6,000 reviews. That's a pretty hefty thing. And I can look through some of the reviews, the support materials, and that kinds of things. And if I want to give it a try, there's a button at the top that says Add to Chrome. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add to Chrome. You'll notice that it gives me a button that, are you sure you want to add it? And so yes, I'm going to say add that app. And then it downloads. You'll see that in the bottom right-hand corner, and it will let you know when it's successfully installed. So now that it's successfully installed, I'm actually going to minimize this, and I'm actually going to go to the launcher, open up that launcher, and now I can see where Duolingo went. So usually when you install something, it's going to go in the first empty spot it finds. And so there's Duolingo. But again, I could have just typed it up here, and I'll notice that it's in this frequent button here. If you want to open it, you're just going to click on it and open it. This Duolingo page actually opened in the browser. So some apps are web apps that are really just sort of like shortcuts to get to another site, and that's fine if it makes it quick and easy for you to use. So after I use it, I can just close it. Now, here's something important for you to note. Teachers have the ability to install Chrome apps and extensions at will. You can try them. You can see if it's something you want to use or something that your students want to use. You have that actual ability to just search through the entire Chrome Web Store. Your students do not. And we'll talk a little bit more how to handle that. But here's why that's important. Let's say you downloaded Duolingo and then you realize that's really not what I was looking for. What's important for you to remember is if you do not want a particular app any longer, and you're not going to use it, you need to delete it. The more stuff you install, it's going to take up your memory. It's going to make your device a little slower and slower over time. So if you're not going to use something, delete it. So now I'm not saying Duolingo is bad at all because I actually love it. I'm just using it for this example. What you'll do to remove it is you can right click, which we learned earlier was a 2-finger light tap, and then I can choose uninstall. Are you sure you want to install it? Yes. And now that is removed. And actually, if I go back to my web page, you'll notice it now says add to Chrome. So it knows I took it off. So that's how you find apps, you install apps, and how you delete apps. Again, you as a staff member have the ability to search the entire app store. So now let's talk about extensions. So extensions work very similarly in that if I go back home to the Chrome Web Store, I can make sure that I'm only looking at extensions. And extensions, again, are those small pieces of software that live at the top of your browser and have very specific purposes. For example, I have an extension that allows me to pin tabs, so every time I open my browser, specific tabs always open and are always pinned. I have one that looks for colors on websites because I make graphics that have to have particular colors, so I have an eyedropper. I use the Wakelet extension, but extensions have very specific things. Bitmoji, for those of you that are familiar with that. My Go for Buddy extension actually updates my Chromebook and makes sure it stays updated. So there's a variety and really thousands of extensions. So again, the same with extensions. I can just narrow it down and search, or I can come down, go to my category and say, okay, what are some ones that are being used for fun or for productivity? A lot of times people will look for productivity. Another thing it's good to remember is to click the free button so you're only looking at free extensions. So that's something else that's important to do as well. So for extensions, so let's see if I can find an extension that I want to try to install just for right now. So this is one a lot of people use, Grammarly. Again, you can look at the reviews to install that extension. I'm going to go ahead and click on it to open it, and it looks very similar to what it did with the app, except this time it's an extension. So I'm going to click Add to Chrome, and I want you to watch what happens. It's going to, again, ask me if I want to add it. Now, it does tell you what it has the ability to do. If you're not comfortable with what it can access, you can always cancel, but I'm going to go ahead and add. Again, you see that information down in the bottom right-hand corner that it's installing. So we'll let it install. When it's finished, it will say the download is complete. And then it'll say it's been added. And you'll notice it went to the left of my puzzle piece. So it's definitely been added. And now what I can see is the remove from Chrome button instead of the add to Chrome button. So whenever I want to use that extension, I can go up to my puzzle piece and find it and click on it to log in or run it or whatever it is that that particular extension does. So it's asking me to sign in and use it, and that's totally fine. Again, with extensions, this is something that a lot of people download tons of extensions and then they really don't even use them. Same thing with the extensions. The more extensions you put into your Chrome browser, the slower it's going to be. So if I no longer wanted Grammarly, again, I'm not saying Grammarly is not good. I'm just showing you this as an example. If I want to remove it, there's the three dots next to it, and I can say remove from Chrome. If I want to remove it, I say remove. And then this one says, why did you uninstall it? You're welcome to fill that out if you would like. So one of the things I do want to show you in the puzzle piece is that you may come across some apps like this one that's securely for classrooms that I don't seem to have any control over. I can pin it, but when I go here, I can't delete it. That's because it was installed by the district. HTTPS requires me to have the Securely for Chromebooks extension. So sometimes you will have apps or extensions that are pushed to you from the district level, and you can pin them, but you can't delete them. So let's go back and let's talk about now. I'm a teacher, and so I can install the extensions, I can install the Chrome apps, and I can do that without any approval. But let's say I have one that I want my students to be able to use. When students go to the Chrome Web Store, they have a very narrow view of what they can see and what they have access to. That's because we use an approval system for students. So if I go back to this Chromebooks tab that we came to at the very beginning, one of the things you will want to take a look at is this approved apps and extensions list. If I click on this and open it up, this is a Google Doc that shows every app and extension that has already been approved for students. So let's say I really want the Cami extension for my students. I love it myself and I want to see if that's already approved. So I can look in this alphabetized list and see, oh, Cami's already there. So Cami is one my students can go to the store and install because it's already on this list. But if you had another app or extension that you wanted your students to be able to use and it's not on this list, then there's an extra step that you're going to have to take. You'll notice at the top it says, if it's not on this list, please have a work order submitted with your request. Your media specialists and your administrators at your school are currently the ones who can enter work orders. This may change at some point, but they're always there to help you to make sure that work order is entered. Once it's entered and approved, there's an additional document that says adding apps and extensions on student Chromebooks. And this shows you how to help your students get the app and extension that was approved so they can have it put onto their Chromebook. One of the things you'll notice is that when they go into the Chrome Web Store, they have a store called 4HCPS. So they would click on 4HCPS and see the available extensions and apps in the 4HCPS store. So that's how students would install those extensions. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is this second bullet here that says request for Chrome apps, Chrome extensions, or Android apps. So we haven't talked about Android apps. Android apps are very different. Not all Chromebooks can use Android apps, but there are some Chromebooks that can. If your Chromebook is one of those devices, you'll see the Google Play Store on your device. I'm going to go ahead and open the Play Store so that you can see how this looks. The Google Play Store allows you to install Android apps. So you can see right now I'm looking at the Android apps available to be installed on my Chromebook because my Chromebook that I'm using for this demonstration does use Android apps. So I'm going to click on the top here to show you what happens. So I can see there's a list called My School Apps, and that's going to show me the ones that are approved for Henderson County. Now I can see I already have some apps that just need updating, and the Chromebook just took care of that for me. But if I go to installed, I can see all the ones installed on this device. Now here's what's really important. You see this storage list. I already have 28% of my memory used. So the more things I install, the more Android apps I install, I'm going to push and push and push and push that storage. So it's really important that you keep a lot of empty storage, especially if you're using offline mode. But if you have Android apps that you're using, that's fantastic. Another thing to remember is if you have a Chrome app, for example, if I have a Chrome app for Jamboard, I don't also need the Android app for Jamboard because then that would be two apps. You really just need to either use the Chrome version or the Android version. These are the ones that are installed, but if I go to library, I can see all the ones that aren't installed, and I can actually click on install and install them if I would like to add them. So Android apps are different in that you as a teacher cannot see the entire Android App Store. You can only see ones that are approved. So if you happen to come across one in the Chrome Web Store that you see that you're interested in trying, you would actually have a work order put in. That app will be evaluated, and then if approved, we would let you know and put it in this library, and that way then it can be installed. So hopefully this gives you a little idea of how that works. So we've talked about Chrome apps, Chrome extensions, and now Android apps. Overall, we want you to have fun with your Chromebook, use the tools, use the extensions to make it more efficient and more effective for you in your role. Enjoy using apps and extensions on your Chromebook.